Hi, I'm Dr. Ellie Porsaf.
I'm Dr. Crystal Wiggins.
Fancy seeing you here.
That's tasty.
ASMR brought to you by Drs. Ellie and Crystal.
Okay, let's just get into it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about OTC. OTC stands for over-the-counter, and most people are familiar with that term with OTC medication. Yeah. Well, about a month ago, in the middle of July, President Biden, I guess it was July 9th, it looks like, President Biden signed an executive order to allow over-the-counter hearing aids. This is not something that started with Biden. I think the topic has been going on for a while, but he kind of sealed the deal on it and said this is happening. So, of course, now we're here to address it as audiologists dealing with hearing aids, having a topic of what we do being sold over the counter is obviously a hot topic for us.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things to be addressed, not only amongst talk between audiologists, but obviously the patients need to hear this and how it's going to affect you and what some of the differences are, some of the options are, and things like that. So let's get into it.
All right.
So what is it? What does it mean? Over the counter means that you can, starting some point next year, sounds like 2022, you'll be able to walk into any pharmacy like a CVS or a Walgreens and just buy a hearing aid that's officially called a hearing aid over the counter without needing an audiologist to program it, prescribe it, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Let's take a peek and see the clip it out.
That's what they're all about, long term.
I'll start drinking now.
To keep our country moving, we have to take another step as well. And I know you're all tired of hearing me during the campaign and since I've elected president talk about it. And that's bringing fair competition back to the economy. That's why today I'm going to be signing shortly an executive order.
If you guys want me to, I'll stop at any time.
To lower prices.
Okay, we can stop it right now. Okay, so let's talk about executive order versus like Congress and a group of people saying all of this. This is really one person pushing the envelope to get things moving along. But let's keep going. That's my commentary.
Step toward an economy that works for everybody. The heart of American capitalism is a simple idea: open and fair competition. That means that if your companies want to win your business, they have to go out and they have to up their game.
Pause.
Better prices.
I have a question for the audience. I know you guys can't answer this, but now are we referring to the major manufacturers? Because when I read his, the actual order, it seems as though it was talking about the major manufacturers controlling the market. That does not trickle down to us the same way.
Like the manufacturers of the hearing aids, there's only like 7 or 8 of them.
Yes.
And that other people need to compete, apparently, so that prices can come down.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want
what I'm understanding. And you can make it louder just in case it doesn't
sorry.
get caught. No, that's okay. That's what we're talking about.
I think he covers that here in a second.
Okay, go. Okay, go.
Services, new ideas and products. That competition keeps the economy moving and keeps it growing. Fair competition is why capitalism has been the world's greatest force of prosperity and growth. By the same token, competitive economy means companies must do everything they do to compete for workers, offering higher wages, more flexible hours, better benefits. But what we've seen over the past few decades is less competition and more concentration that holds our economy back. We see it in big agriculture, in big tech, in big pharma. The list goes on. Rather than competing for consumers, they are consuming their competitors. Rather than competing for workers, they're finding ways to gain the upper hand on labor. And too often, the government has actually made it harder for new companies to break in and compete. Look at what that means for family budgets. Take prescription drugs. Just a handful of companies control the market for many vital medicines, giving them leverage over everyone else to charge whatever they want. As a result, Americans pay 2.5 times more for prescription drugs than in any other leading country. And nearly 1 in 4 Americans struggles to afford the medication. Another example, hearing aids. Right now, if you need a hearing aid, you can't just walk into a pharmacy and pick one up over the counter.
And you
You
shouldn't.
get it from a doctor or a specialist. Not only does that make getting hearing aids inconvenient, it makes them considerably more expensive. And
Time out. Chip, pause.
Okay, so there's a
Go.
lot in
Go.
those few
Yeah.
seconds.
Go.
Let's
Go, Dr.
begin
Amy,
with
go.
yes. Right now, you can go to a pharmacy. This very moment,
Yes.
you can walk into CVS, usually by the As Seen on TV section, and get what's called a PSAP, which is a personal sound amplification product. PSAP, which is basically an amplifier.
Or a weird rapper. But go ahead. PSAP. I mean, you know.
I was like, what? Okay, I got you. A little slow. So
His
what-
logo's a hearing aid.
This is actually inaccurate because technically you can go into a pharmacy right now. And in my humble opinion, let me fast forward through all of this and say I believe it's going to be very similar, just a little bit of a different product, maybe a little bit of a better quality product. But right now, that PSAP that you can go get at Walgreens
Your amplifier?
for $30, $30 to $100 right now is going to be labeled a hearing aid in a year's time, and now you're going to have to pay $300 to $500 for that. So already, this is where I know other companies such as Bose and better quality companies are
Panasonic
going
and
to
stuff.
come in and try to have a little piece of the pie, if you will,
Right.
which will make it a better quality than the current personal amplifiers. But the moment that something's allowed to be called a hearing aid, which will still be some of the current products that's out there that have not helped people, as we have
Yes, we see
have
all
had
the
so many
time
people say they've
on a
wasted a
weekly
few
basis.
$100s on amplifiers. You might think a few $100s is inexpensive, but that's a few $100s wasted,
yeah.
and time wasted, and hope
Time
and
is
energy
money.
wasted on something that they can't get the money back on that.
Right.
So I feel like it'll be something similar, maybe a little bit of a better quality, but we'll talk about that quality more in a minute. But that's that. So right now he's saying something's not available. It is technically.
It is available,
and they've been
yeah.
available for years.
right.
You can go online. You can go on the stores and
Walmart
So
has
this has already happened to some degree.
So why would you think he would say that? Is it you think he just doesn't know what he's talking about, or you think that it's
think-
actually somebody pushing some type of agenda?
It's an agenda.
I think it's an
definitely an agenda.
And he's only as good as the information that's brought to him.
Yeah, he has so much going on. There's no way.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no way he can be completely versed in every single topic. So whoever is advising, because there's advisors.
Yeah, so right now
yeah.
they're not called hearing aids technically, right? Hearing aids you can get from us,
Yeah.
from a hearing aid office, from an audiology practice, from a
yeah.
hearing aid dealer, from a dispenser, ENT office. These are the only places you can get hearing aids from. But what's going to change is you can get a hearing aid. Again, they're just changing with the way that the name is called officially from anywhere come within a year or so. That being
But
said,
why would you want to just get?
so we'll
Okay, we'll
let's
get to that.
Let's get to that.
I just,
So did he
okay,
address
go
anything
ahead,
else?
Go ahead. Uh-huh.
Did he already say the $5,000 part?
No, and then
Okay.
he lumped us. We were like right behind Big Pharma and all of these
so
other
we're the
people
evil,
who have the bad
we're the
names.
evil,
The evil
price gouging audiologists.
No,
that-
we're not.
You definitely need to unpack that.
Yeah, we need to
You guys
unpack
don't
it, man.
prescribe medication
We
at
don't
all.
prescribe medication.
No, but the point of her saying we're lumped in with Big Pharma is because Big Pharma equals evil in people's
Yeah.
mind, right?
But here's there. You guys do not prescribe medication. Pharmaceuticals are pharmaceuticals. You
But
guys
yes.
do not prescribe
But Big
pharmaceuticals.
Pharma has control, and his point is that we have control. We,
Right.
a small mom and pop shop, are the evil.
And it's not the same.
where really he's basically trying to say big business, but really it's small business right now that is trying to help the patient. And what
Right.
he's basically doing is the opposite, which is giving big businesses such as CVS, Bose, Jabra, and all of these other
large
big
entities,
companies ability to sell what's not equal, but it's being almost equated to what we do, the opportunity to do that.
It's all-
Where the blame came, or for me, where he almost blamed doctors, as he said, you couldn't get him without a doctor's prescription. It's important that you guys address that and say you
Yeah,
can.
because why would you want to? This is a medical device, right? Something that is going to help correct a sense, your natural
your
sense.
senses.
Yeah, it's restoring one of your natural senses. I don't know anybody that wants to buy an eye
So
implant on the side of the road.
An
okay?
over-the-counter hearing aid if you will, can be compared to
Are you buying your
reading
glasses?
glasses as simple as we can put it.
Yeah, but they try to put it in
but
sense
a
like it's a
hearing
glass
is much
eye.
more complicated than the vision. So you just
Right.
needing a +2 reader when you hit 40, 41, 42 years old is different than you having hearing loss from years of noise exposure, shooting guns, or working in a shop, or whatever the reason is for your hearing loss. Then you going and getting something over the counter that is literally not made to your prescription.
Right.
So those are different, but that's the easiest way for us to compare
Compare
it.
it, yeah.
Is to
I think that's a
say
great
compare it to like going to the drugstore and getting a reader. Well, now you can go to the drugstore and get a hearing aid without
Yeah.
needing a prescription.
So
And
say I'm an individual that has
You are an
a
individual.
mild hearing loss. It's barely enough to even register, and I go in and I go and buy some over the counter and just pop them in my ears, and they help me like at card games or at work every once in a while. Would that be a case where
It's a
you?
PSAP.
But
So I think this, if there's a positive in this, it is that the people with mild losses, this is the one big positive thing that I truly am also passionate about. I'm passionate against this, but I'm also passionate for the topic of people with mild losses usually don't want to do anything about their hearing.
Yeah.
And so, or they're not going to go spend $5,000, which we'll talk about in a second, because not hearing aids are not $5,000. They can be, but they don't have to be.
Exactly.
We can
Well
compete.
stated.
We can compete with over-the-counter pricing very close to it, and you get an actual doctor with an actual digital programmable hearing aid with Bluetooth capabilities, with phone app capabilities, all of that for something that's probably going to be just a little bit over what an OTC hearing aid is going to cost. But somebody, the way you're describing it, with a mild loss that wants to hear a little bit around maybe a simple card game, simple family gathering, nothing too complicated with a mild loss,
Yeah.
will probably benefit from an over-the-counter. Because over-the-counter, the big thing that we're hearing about over-the-counter hearing aids is that they're going to be made for mostly mild losses, max mild to moderate. And most of the patients we see, we have people with mild loss, mild to moderate. But most of the patients we see have mild to severe or mild to profound losses, or moderate to severe. So we don't deal with people that are necessarily deaf, but we deal with hard of hearing that are usually more than just a mild loss. So if somebody decides,
And I'm glad that they do. If they do
yes,
go and get
that
something
means their
done, they're
brain is
stimulating
going
their
to
bra-
be stimulated.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want their brain to be stimulated.
want
by
the-
the time they're tired of it, and then they come here, and then
Or if their loss gets
Ellie, you
worse.
say go ahead and then you start talking.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I want them to stimulate their brain. That's
Yeah.
our goal. Our goal is to treat the loss long term over a lifespan. So just because today you have a mild loss, it doesn't mean that you're not going to age into possibly having more hearing loss that you need more care for, or your environments are going to change.
So
your work environment's going to change, that you need more assistance.
Even if that person was to go in and go buy over the counter, would it hurt them to come in and get an audiogram and just get their hearing checked?
No, they really should.
They really
get
should, because
Yeah.
that's what we're afraid of. Is this over the counter is going to get rid of people wanting to get an idea of what's going on with their
Right.
hearing? And one of the biggest dangers of doing anything over the counter is that when we should
Delay.
monitor your hearing
Yes.
annually or every couple of years at the minimum,
Yes.
so that and at least that first baseline audio. I think a baseline audiogram is so important because, for example, if there's an asymmetry,
Yeah.
it could mean
something more
else.
serious.
It could be a red flag for possibly a tumor.
Yeah.
We're not trying to scare you, but these are things that, like, if we see somebody have no loss and then hearing loss on one side, or mild loss and a moderate loss on the other,
Yeah.
if they don't tell us a firecracker went off by my head when I was 14, I'm going to say you need to go to the
Or got
ENT
knocked in the
and
head.
get some kind of imaging to prove that there's nothing else going on. And do you know how many tumors we have caught?
Yeah.
I mean,
How would a brain tumor affect your hearing?
It could completely wipe out your hearing.
How?
because it's
Yeah, because
a mass.
it takes
Go
a
ahead.
mass in the inner auditory canals.
So usually it affects the eighth. It can like a
Cranial nerve.
hearing.
Can't help it, can you?
Go ahead.
no.
Talk about
You
auditory
very
nerve.
first-
Eighth nerve.
the eighth cranial nerve.
Yeah.
So it could actually compress the area that the auditory nerve goes through, and when it presses the auditory nerve, it will cause more hearing loss. It diminishes the transmission to the brain. Yeah.
So that'll affect
She
one
was saying
side.
that.
Interesting. Interesting.
It'll affect
As
one
opposed
side.
to typical hearing loss, which would be across both ears.
Yes.
Yes.
We like to
Yeah,
see something
symmetrical.
within like 10 decibels of each other. If it's greater than that in more than like 3 frequencies, that's a red flag.
Yes.
And we ask, and now in Texas, you were saying that.
Shooters, yeah.
Yeah, we have people who
Right shoulder shooter much?
Yeah, right-handed shooters that affects the left ear more. So we're used to seeing a drop in the left ear greater than the right to some degree.
To some degree. Yes.
And we still, of course, recommend.
An audiogram. They should all get audiograms.
Well, not just audiogram, but recommend possible ENT visit just in case there's anything else going on. But a big problem with something over the counter and removing the audiologist out of the equation completely is that medical conditions are possibly not going to be caught.
Yeah.
And there's other things that people have hearing loss for. People have fluid in their ear.
I have a story. So I have an uncle. I love you, Uncle Clarence. But I have an uncle that he had hearing loss. Obviously, he forgot that, or he maybe was a little embarrassed to talk to me about
Sure.
it. But I went to his house, and I saw a PSAP sitting on his coffee table. And I said, what are you doing with this? And he said, oh, it's because my ear has been bothering me. And I said, bothering you? And he says, yeah, I haven't been able to hear out of it. Come to find out, it had been 9 months. And guess what? It was just fluid in his ear.
There you go.
You see?
So he went and got an over-the-counter
there's going
device.
to be-
He just had
yeah.
fluid. You have to deal with the fluid.
Deal
You can't
with
just
it.
let it sit
Sit
there.
there.
And you don't need a hearing aid.
Exactly. So he's not wearing a hearing aid now because he had a myringotomy with a tube placed and he was fine. Matter of 15 minutes. So that's an example of that amount of time, 9 months with hearing loss that was medically manageable, that an audiologist would have said, you know what, I'm doing two types of exams. You have fluid in your ears. You need to see an ear, nose, and throat physician, see the ENT. He takes care of the medical management, and now he doesn't need the hearing aid or the PSAP,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things
Wasted
that...
his time and money.
Yes, it's wasted time and money.
So regardless over the counter or not, go see your audiologist.
Yes, go see an audiologist.
So, but what would you say, both of you guys, just individual answers, if somebody walked in, you gave them an audiogram, you checked their hearing, and you diagnosed them with a mild hearing loss on one side and a severe hearing loss on the other side, they said, we're still going to go buy over-the-counter hearing aids?
Well, over-the-counter hearing aid is not going to help somebody with a severe loss, first of all. So it's limited to a degree of loss. So you're not going to. So that's one of the other dangers is being under-amplified and also over-amplified. So if somebody has maybe a very mild loss, but then they get a hearing aid, over-the-counter hearing aid that's for a mild to moderate loss, you can also over-amplify, which is not good either. No. So to under-amplify is not good because you're not going to hear well, but also you're not stimulating the brain as you should. And that goes back to us pushing the stimulation of the brain is so important because if you do that within a certain age, you can the effects of cognitive decline can almost be, I don't want to say reversed, but really
treated.
What's the word?
Treated. I don't know. Remedy.
Treating hearing loss is the number one modifiable factor that you can do for avoiding early cognitive decline.
Well stated.
Thank you.
Cognitive decline, you mean non-disease related,
like dementia, Alzheimer's, issues with memory.
So you're saying that protecting your hearing or making sure that you're hearing correctly can prevent you from getting dementia or Alzheimer's?
So what happens with auditory deprivation, and that's where this
where
starts.
There's already hearing loss.
So if there's hearing loss, and this is the way I explain it to my patients, when there's hearing loss, you have all these pathways like a highway. You've got cars coming through the highway if the pathway is normal, okay? If there is a blockage or if there's a loss, so we're going to shut down some of those lanes or we're going to shut down the highway, right? So after a while, the brain says, man, I got tons of lanes shutting down on 45. I need to shut that whole sucker down. So then it creates a plaque or dims that portion of the brain. And so once that dims, it starts to spread other places, which plaques are equated to dementia and Alzheimer's. Another portion of that is those cars have to go somewhere. So that sound information, because it can't go to the auditory in the auditory lanes, it's going to go to the ones that are most active. Your memory, your problem solving skills, and your visual spatial. So then it starts to take up space there. So not as much memory cards can get through, not as much problem solving cards can get through. So it blocks that out, and so your memory is
That's a
degraded.
really good analogy.
Yeah, your problem solving's degraded, and your visual spatial is degraded.
So you're more likely to fall. You're
Yeah.
more likely to not have good memory. Not
She's a doc. She's a doctor.
She's a,
yeah,
she said she's a
She was valedictorian too.
Hey, it's not,
Hey, so
long time.
so
ago.
based on what you just told me, is there some cases where kids are diagnosed with a learning disability and they may just be hard of hearing?
they could also have
Yeah, it could be wax, it could be fluid. They're usually caught earlier on
yes.
because in public school, I'll say
Yes.
that in public school, they're screening them every other year.
But I mean, we just caught a 10-year-old or 9-year-old,
Oh, yeah, that's
10-year-old.
true.
He was not aware of it. They even passed our newborn hearing screening.
Progressive hearing loss.
Yeah,
That's another one.
So that's the other. There's so many dangers that it's not like the sky is falling, but kids are another one. We know
Yeah.
hearing aids can be expensive, but if a kid gets something that's not programmed to their prescription,
That is bad.
that is such a fear of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, usually we see a lot of kids, but like kids usually get routed to like maybe
Major
Texas Children's,
hospitals,
things like
yeah.
that. But for me, it's like, listen, again, hearing aids don't have to cost $5,000.
They don't.
And another big thing that y'all need to realize about over the counter is that over time, many insurances cover hearing aids or give an allowance towards hearing aids or give a major discount on hearing aids, major, like $1,000 off per aid, $2,500 off, where your out of pocket is like $1,500 or something for like $5,000 hearing aids. Check with your insurance. There's a lot of coverage that people do not know about. So what I'm afraid of, another big thing, I'm afraid that this is going to end up being a way for our healthcare system to avoid paying for
Quality health care.
for hearing
Sorry,
care.
I just took that right
I feel like
yeah.
that's just how it's going to end up because you can just get it over the counter now, and then it's not going to be anything close to what we can offer now.
That means your insurance allowance for hearing aids will decrease.
Because we're already
right?
seeing
Yeah,
that.
we're
already seeing that with them offering an direct to home product where it's not really even program, or they never even see us. I mean, we're already seeing that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is not in the best interest of the patient.
Yeah.
So if we're already seeing that now and OTC hasn't happened, I'm afraid of what's going to happen with insurance coverage. And, again, people, we're not the big evil monsters trying to gouge you. There's a reason why if we charge $5,000 or $6,000 for hearing aids, that's because, if let's say you have no coverage or anything like that, our cost of goods is quite high. So I guess if you want to be mad at anybody, you can be mad at the manufacturers. But our cost of goods is quite high. So to pay our price of the actual product and then all the many hours that we spend with you, there is a form of a bundled pricing. Now you can also go to an office that does unbundling where you're paying for the product with maybe a little bit of money tacked onto it, and then you just pay as you go as you use services. There's a lot of options. Different practices have different models. We kind of do a semi-unbundled here where you don't get free follow-ups for life, but I'm also not charging you $8,000 for hearing aids. Right,
correct.
So
can I just interject this too, Dr. Ellie? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Dr. Ellie and I are not afraid of OTC. We're not bashing OTC. We want our subscribers and listeners to be well informed about this, because there are some people that OTC is going to be what they can afford and what they may need at the time, but it is not a catch-all, and that's what we're mostly afraid of, is that people, consumers, patients will look at this as a catch-all. Like, it's just a hearing aid, everything's the same, all the hearing aids, and it's not.
And we do so much for our patients. First of all, let's get to the very basics of this. This is not going to be the same hearing aid that you're going to get in our office. Even our probably least expensive option that you can get for $1,200 in our office is going to be better than what's available for OTC, because the technology in it is going to be better.
Absolutely.
Also, adding the human
and you
factor.
get her with it.
Yes, I would say that. I'm like, and you get us.
That's right.
So you're going to get, an hour and a half of our attention to 2 hours, teaching you every little bit, how to change the wax filter, how to put it on the charger. The human care makes a big difference. I mean, right now we're dealing with top-notch products. We're dealing with
Oh yeah, I love them.
really good, time with our patients, and our patients still have a tough time.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine if you remove us from the equation and all the hours that we spend hand-holding our patients, which of course that's part of what we love to do.
Yeah.
I really can't imagine how, this is definitely not going to be a thing for everybody, right?
Right. And we have both had patients who have gone the OTC route, who we call our patients now, who said, hey, I went to the CVS and I just got this amplifier. I've even had patients who were fit with hearing aids who said, my hearing aid broke. I needed something right away.
Yeah.
They were able to get some sound, but they knew it was never going to be as good as the hearing aids that they had programmed, and having someone to care for them. That's the big part of it. I think,
or when something goes wrong, where do you send it? There's nowhere to send it. They're not going to probably have any aftercare.
One.
Yeah, you're just going to have to buy another one because there's not going to be like probably some kind of, hey, you can do this, and you have a loaner in the meantime while it's being repaired under warranty.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be much of that or any that I'm going to assume that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's also things like earwax. Like, first and foremost, we look at the ears and make sure now, if y'all seen any of our videos, there's a ton of people with complete earwax blockages. That there are people who come to our office thinking
that it's hearing loss, and when in fact it's the mighty old earwax, and you remove it, and they say, I can hear now.
Yeah. So, hey, you don't need a hearing aid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much that goes behind it. Over-the-counter hearing aid is probably not. It's not going to have any human interaction, meaning they're not going to be calibrated, which means that squealing that you hear, that when somebody gets kind of too close, that's going to happen with over-the-counter most likely. They're going to have probably issues with feedback. You obviously can't do anything custom. So when you see the goop that we put on our Instagram, the pink goop, that's us taking a mold of the ear and providing a custom product.
Yes.
So those are not going to be available over the counter. And again, I can't just say it enough. The actual hearing aid is not the same. It's not to your prescription. It's just
just an amplifier, maybe.
Just an advanced amplifier.
Advanced amplifier. That's a good one.
And audiology is way more than just hearing aids.
It is.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of diagnosis and treatment in this office. But when you see an audiologist, you can see an audiologist for many reasons. You can see him for balance. You can see an audiologist for other things. We do cochlear implants. You can see
Tinnitus. Let's talk about that ringing. Let's talk about that ringing.
That's another big one. Thank you for bringing that up. Tinnitus is such a big problem for people. The ringing in the ear. Some people call it tinnitus.
If you're in Texas, it's tinnitus. It's tinnitus.
Some people call it tendinitis. But that's a big one. And I'm afraid of that as well as another danger.
Because if you talk about over amplification, you can actually cause reactive tinnitus. And patients who have tinnitus, you can really mess yourself up if you're not talking to a professional or seeing one.
Is the tinnitus the actual ringing in the ear? And is
it's umbrella term.
It's
you got to make sure you explain
it's
that.
a phantom noise that someone would hear when there's no external stimuli.
It can sound like nobody else is hearing it. So it's in your head, but we know it's there. We know it exists, but we cannot measure it. We can't stick a microphone in your ear and pick up what it is. We cannot even prove that what you're saying is what it is. But it sounds like
I can't disprove it either.
Yeah. So it could be sizzling. What are some of the other high pitched?
Somebody said screeching the other day. I had a patient describe
crickets, cicada.
That's from the ATA.
Whooshing.
What's ATA?
Oh, American Tinnitus Association. The patient had to pull it up and show me. I said, screeching? Are you serious? And she said, yes, it's one of the categories on the American Tinnitus Association's website. And I was like, pull it up. So, she pulls it up and plays it, and it's more of like a high-pitched cicada-ish sound. And I'm like, that's cicadas, if I ever heard it. But just with a high-pitched filter on, low-pass filter or something. Yeah.
I mean, some tinnitus patients are self-treating.
Yeah.
Just even putting a sound noise on their phone.
Yeah.
But again, don't remove the doctor out of the equation completely.
Yes.
You still need to be evaluated. If that's what you end up doing, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you still need to make sure that there's nothing else going on.
I agree.
You know,
I
like-
agree. I echo the echo.
It's just, I wouldn't play with your health like that.
I
This is
wouldn't
not
either.
this is not something to take lightly.
Right. I
So,
agree. I agree.
Other than audiologists, who else prescribes hearing aids? What other
Hearing-
doctors?
Hearing dispensers.
Hearing dispensers can
dispensers.
fit hearing aids.
They can
Yes.
fit hearing aids.
They can fit them, but can they do the
I don't know what
audiograms?
rules
The
are.
audio tests?
So
Yes, they can do it.
The
They can do a
states are
hearing
different.
test, but they can't call it a diagnostic usually. They can say it's just like a screener. But every state's different. Some states, they have way more allowance, like Louisiana, I think is a little more strict.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they can remove wax. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But dispensers have been doing it technically longer than audiologists.
Yeah.
So basically, what I just heard from you, and just to clarify this, federal is the FDA, and you guys aren't even governed under federal laws or guidelines. You're governed under state guidelines.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Every
you're
state's
licensed
different.
under the state of Texas.
Yeah,
Correct.
I am.
Yeah.
Is that a
It's
test?
current.
It's called 8 years of college after 4.
Yeah.
That's the test.
Yeah.
Test to see if you can make it 12 years in college. It's interesting that a lot of people just don't know what an audiologist is, but it's
Yes.
typically because, one, you don't realize that you need help until somebody educates you on the fact that you need help.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, guys, I don't like going to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
I just don't like it. And it's just a thing.
Vision,
It's a thing that you
Going
have.
to be a PSAP user.
It's a thing that you have. I'll just go deaf.
No,
I'll
no,
be like,
no,
thank
we're not
God.
gonna- Dr.
Just
We're
kidding.
not gonna let that happen.
But he's right. There's a lot of people who don't
That's
even,
true.
they just avoid this altogether. It's just easier. Just like, I guess, if you have a little bit of an acid reflux, you're not going to necessarily go see a GI doctor. You're going
Yeah.
to just go
'Cause
by,
they're gonna
now
tell you
that
stop drinking
Prilosec,
wine.
because like Prilosec, cheers to that. We're not doing that
We're
though.
not doing that.
Okay. So
Nobody likes a quitter.
That's what I'm saying.
Before Prilosec is literally called Prilosec OTC.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was the purple pill or whatever that you'd have
yeah.
to get a prescription for. Or even there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily disagree with.
Zyrtec is
But let's say somebody does have issues that need to be addressed, gastrointestinal
Yeah.
issues that they just keep popping all these
Why are we-
over-the-counter
and
things
right,
for.
why are we not cutting out the GI doctor? We're not cutting him out.
Yeah.
You still need to follow up if you got a
Right.
serious issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this. I have a patient who I saw, and this is something to just echo behind what you were saying about some people will just not go to the doctor. Gentleman comes in, he's 70 years old. His daughter brought him in. Basically, she didn't drag him kicking and screaming, but he has delayed doing anything about his hearing loss. Brought him in, and what I did was, what Dr. Ellie's suggestion is, do an in-office demo. We do that whenever we can, so he can actually see what his potential is. When you go to over-the-counter, you're just going to pick up a product. You don't know what the possibilities are going to be. If it's an earwax issue, it's possible you're going to say, put the thing in the OTC hearing aid in your
You just
ear,
spent like
and just spend
$300 and it's
$300, and
Yeah.
you're going to say, this thing doesn't work. And my fear is that there are going to be people who throw it in the trash and say there's nothing that can be done,
Yes.
and leaving things untreated.
Kind of like what happened with the 90s. In the 90s, because we started school in the early
that was a-
2000s.
I was going to say that was a great decade.
Yeah, but what did we deal with? What did you not? I literally did not want. I literally
CIC?
proclaimed these words. I said, I will never touch a hearing aid with a 10-foot pole. I said those words, and now I'm an owner of an audiology practice that does nothing but hearing aids all day. Why did I say that? Because this was 2003, and we were going through the 1998, 1999, 2000. Garbage hearing aid phase from the 80s and the 90s of being bad products and patients going, there
I
are
don't wanna
still
wear
patients
that.
to this day that are like, well, I tried it, 15 years ago.
Yes,
And they were
yes.
just no good. And
I'm not doing
and
it,
I'm like,
yeah.
I promised you they have changed. I promised you. just take my word for it, and you have 30 days money back guarantee if not,
Yeah.
Things like that. Like I have to sit there and be like, please just trust this
Yes.
process. Things have changed. Like I'm afraid with something with that's
Those
OTC.
people are going to go back into the
Yeah, they're going
into
to be like,
the
this
dark.
didn't work for me,
And-
and then like put it on the back burner for another
20 years.
yeah, 20 years, which, the positive thing of this is that if they don't, and if they wear it and they start stimulating their brain, and eventually when they need more care, they'll come see us.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid of the other.
The opposite side of that coin. Yeah, there are going to be some who are just going to say, I told you it didn't work.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it to
And then they're
prove
gonna
to
put
their
it-
family that it didn't work, that it doesn't work. And it's going to go in the
Exactly.
trash, the drawer.
That's gonna
or what
happen.
have you. It will happen. It will happen because it's happening now.
Yeah.
But those people, and we're hopefully they will have someone around them that will corral them. Our job as professionals, I believe, is to educate as much as
Yeah.
possible.
And then leave it up to
I'm
them.
I'm very glad that we do TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram and all the social
Yeah.
media, because it's the younger generation that tends to bring grandpa,
Yep.
papa, and mama in,
Or even
to
the younger.
say-
I mean, it's not
and
even
they
about
may-
the grandpa.
Yeah,
There's
Or-
younger.
or-
We've had 26-year-olds.
parents, yeah.
Or even the 20-year-olds that come in
Yes.
with hearing loss.
Yes. So I mean, it's, and the sooner we can catch them,
Yeah.
the better things will be for them. The better patient advocate we have in that person too, because
Yeah.
if you have somebody that's 20 years old that says, man, I've been wearing hearing aids for
Yeah.
past such and such years, they're 26, they've been wearing them for 6 years, and then it doesn't seem abnormal to them.
Yeah.
They know they went the route that is most suggested by an audiologist, and they're telling other people, so they're not saying, oh, I'm just going to just blow it off and then do whatever or not do anything about it. So that's what I'm grateful that we do that.
I think the take home with OTC is that the reason it's coming into existence is coming down to one thing, or well, maybe two things, like him suggesting not wanting to go to the doctor. So the world we live in now, which is click
Consumer-driven.
online, order it, like let's instant, like
Amazon,
I can just
I want my package.
I want my package,
Yeah.
get it on Amazon or go to CVS and get it same day or whatever. That's part of it. But obviously the biggest part of it is money. And I really want to let you guys know, no matter what city you live in, no matter where you're at, even in a very, I consider our office a high-end office, not because everything's expensive. We do everything here. Obviously, we have expensive stuff in our office, but our products are not expensive.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
We have a range of products for all
and
patients.
most audiology offices will. Give them that opportunity. Give your doctor that opportunity
Thank
to
you.
give you, to let you know that for, $1,200 or $800 even, there's offices that probably go down as, we choose to go only solo, but maybe at some point I'll consider a portfolio that even includes the essential line to compete with OTC, because even that's going to be better than an OTC product.
Right.
But there are options out there for probably a few $100 more that you can have a human being walk you through everything.
Yeah.
You can have somebody actually program your product for you and help you when you need assistance, and have at least a 1 year to 3 year warranty.
Yes.
And if you need loaners, and if you need care,
Yeah.
and if the wax gets full,
Yeah.
and if you have something that needs to be caught that's medical, boom, boom. I can
boom,
keep going
keep
all
going.
day long.
Yeah.
Give your audiologist that opportunity before you just walk into a CVS and waste $600 or $800 and God forbid miss some kind of bigger diagnosis or buy something that you can't return.
Yeah.
Because usually these things are like medical, that you really can't either return them. I don't know what the deal is. Who knows what the rules will be. But
Yeah.
give your local audiologist that
Thank
that
you.
opportunity to help you.
Thank
and it
you.
doesn't have to cost you $5,000.
Thank you. I agree. Echo.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
That was fancy seeing you here.
Broke a world record.
I think that was great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I get so passionate
If there's
about
anything, if there's anything that y'all want to add, real quick, hit pause. Hit pause.
Well, I just like that statement. Give your local audiologist the opportunity.